You didn't land here by mistake. I know you've probably heard that before, maybe in one of those overly dramatic videos that try too hard to be meaningful. But this feels different, doesn't it? There's something quieter about this moment. Something that doesn't scream for your attention, but sits beside you like a familiar ache or a glance from someone who sees more than you've ever said out loud. Maybe you're not even sure why you clicked this. Maybe your day has been a blur of scrolling, half-hearted distractions, another loop of pretending everything's fine when it hasn't been for a while. You didn't come here looking for answers. Not really. You came here looking for something real. Something that doesn't ask you to perform. Something that finally names the ache you've been carrying in silence. And now you're here, still, listening, which tells me more than words ever could. Because the truth is, most people don't stay when things get quiet. Most people run, but not you. You've been hearing it for a while now, haven't you? That low hum in the background of your life. The one that doesn't come from your phone or your inbox, but from somewhere deeper, somewhere forgotten. It's the part of you that's tired of pretending, tired of putting on the same mask just to keep everything normal, tired of brushing off that tiny persistent voice that says, "This doesn't feel right anymore." It's not burnout, not exactly. It's more like an unraveling, but not the kind that means something's falling apart. The kind that means something's finally being revealed. Like peeling paint on an old wall underneath, there's the original color. The one you forgot existed. The one that feels like home. That's what this moment is. A quiet peeling away. And underneath all the noise, all the survival, all the coping, there you are. Maybe you've spent years doing everything you thought you were supposed to, smiling when it was expected, nodding even when your soul screamed no. You played the part. You wore the costume. And for a while it worked. You fit in. You made it work. You checked all the boxes. But lately, even the victories feel hollow. Even laughter has an echo now. The rooms you once filled feel unfamiliar. And it's not that the world changed, it's that you did. You grew tired of hearing your own voice agree to things that didn't sit right in your chest. You started to notice how loud the world had become and how silent you had become in it. And that silence inside you, it's not weakness, it's a signal. It's the sacred space between who you were and who you're becoming. No one teaches us how to listen to that space. We're taught to fix, to chase, to hustle, to solve, but never to feel. Never to just be in that strange in-between where nothing makes sense but everything starts shifting. So you distract yourself. You scroll. You fill the void. Until something like this finds you not with answers, but with presence. And suddenly, you're not alone with the ache anymore. You're seen, not through performance, but through quiet recognition. This message isn't here to change you. It's not here to fix you. It's here to hold a mirror to something you already know, but have been too tired to face. That maybe, just maybe, the version of you that's been holding it all together isn't the real you. It's the survival you, the polite you, the don't make a scene you, the smile so no one asks questions you. And that version, it's exhausted. There's a reason you're here, a reason this message found you. And it's not to give you a plan, it's to give you permission. Permission to stop, to breathe, to feel what you've been burying under busyness, to sit in the stillness you've been avoiding because you thought silence meant defeat. But maybe Silence is where the real you has been waiting all along. So let's stay here a while longer. No rush, no fixing, just truth. It doesn't happen all at once. There's no grand collapse, no sudden breakdown in the middle of a dramatic scene. It's quieter than that, softer, like a thread slowly loosening in the fabric of your everyday life. You wake up and do the same things: make coffee, open your phone, answer messages. From the outside, everything looks the same, but inside, something's off. You feel distant, like you're watching yourself play a part that no longer fits. The words still come. The smile still shows up when it's supposed to. But beneath it all, there's a quiet unraveling. You don't even know what to call it at first. It's not sadness, not the kind you can name. It's not depression. You still laugh sometimes. You still show up. You still get through the day. But there's an echo inside you now. A delay between who you are and who you appear to be. And that space, that hollow pause between, it's growing wider by the day. Some call it a midlife crisis. Others call it burnout. But what if it's not a crisis? What if it's a beginning? What if this quiet discomfort is the soul's way of saying, we're not doing this anymore? What if the emptiness you feel isn't a void, but an invitation? You see, there comes a moment in life for some. It's in their 20s, others in their 40s, when the scaffolding begins to shake. The roles you've built, the routines you've trusted, the identities you've carried like armor, they start to crack. And not because you did something wrong, but because you've outgrown them. You start realizing that success, the way you've been told to define it, doesn't satisfy. That relationships built on pleasing others leave you drained. That no number of likes, promotions, or praises can silence the quiet scream of your truth. I once knew someone who had everything by the world's standards: beauty, a brilliant job, an apartment overlooking the city skyline. She smiled in every photo, laughed in every meeting, checked every box. But behind closed doors, she was unraveling. And one day, without warning, she walked away from it all, quit, disappeared, moved to a small coastal town where no one knew her name. When I asked her why she didn't cry or explain, she just looked at me and said, I was tired of building a life for someone I never truly was. I never forgot that. Because how many of us are doing exactly that? How many of us are living days that feel like echoes of someone else's dream? How many of us are stuck in a life that doesn't feel wrong enough to leave, but not right enough to stay? And so we distract. We scroll. We pretend we're fine. We busy ourselves with tasks, hoping the ache will quiet down. But the soul is stubborn. It whispers when the world screams. And when it doesn't feel heard, it finds other ways to get your attention. The truth is, you can't perform your way out of misalignment. You can't journal your way through something your body has been trying to tell you for years. And no self-help book can save you from the moment when your spirit decides it's done pretending. And that's what this moment might be. Not a breakdown, but a breakthrough. Not an ending, but an unfolding. The unraveling is sacred. It's the moment you stop editing yourself to be palatable. The moment you stop shrinking to fit the mold. The moment you stop dressing your wounds in productivity and begin to feel again fully unapologetically. Yes, it's disorienting. Yes, it hurts. But so does growth. So does birth. You're not here to be neat or convenient. You're here to be whole. And sometimes, wholeness looks like falling apart in all the right places. So if your days feel hollow, if your reflection feels like a stranger, if your laughter feels forced and your dreams feel distant, maybe you're not broken. Maybe you're just in the middle of becoming. Stay with it, even when it doesn't make sense, even when it scares you. Because the part of you that's unraveling, it's the part that was never really you. It was borrowed, it was inherited, it was taught. And now, you're remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. This isn't the end. This is where things start to get real. There's a strange moment that comes just before everything changes. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It doesn't come with tears or a final straw. It's quieter than that. It's the morning you wake up, look in the mirror, and don't recognize your own eyes. The laughter still works. The routines still function. But there's a look in your reflection that says, I don't want to do this anymore. And not because life is too hard, but because it's too hollow. You've kept the mask on for so long it molded to your skin. You wore the smiles, the kindness, the small talk like a costume stitched together with the need to be accepted, to be liked, to be seen as someone who has it all together. But pretending has a price, and that price is always paid in pieces of yourself. You lose a little when you say yes to what you want to scream no to. You lose a little when you laugh at a joke that drains your spirit. You lose a little when you make yourself small just to avoid making others uncomfortable. And after a while, you look around and realize you've become a stranger in your own life. You've curated a personality that keeps the peace, but quietly kills your truth. And here's what no one tells you. Faking it, even with the best intentions, always leads to fracture. Not immediately, but eventually. Because the soul isn't designed to be hidden forever. There's a reason why silence has started to feel sacred. Why you've been pulling away from certain conversations. Why you can't tolerate surface-level talk anymore. Why noise, once comforting, now grates against your skin. It's not because you're becoming cold. It's because you're becoming honest. The real you, the one buried under years of adaptation, is starting to surface. And when that happens, even the smallest acts of inauthenticity begin to sting. You say something out of habit, and instantly you feel the disconnect. You catch yourself laughing, then notice how forced it feels. You agree with something only to feel a hollow ache in your chest, as if you've just betrayed yourself. That's when you know. The pretending can't continue. Not because anyone told you to stop, but because your soul can't tolerate the weight of your own silence anymore. You begin to see it, all of it. The way you perform, the way you hold back, the way you avoid your own reflection, not just in mirrors, but in conversations where you don't speak your truth. And the scariest part, no one around you notices. They still think you're the same, still think you're okay, still laugh at your jokes, still invite you out, still expect you to play your part. But inside, something is shifting. You start saying no more. You get quieter in rooms where you once filled the silence. You start walking away from people you used to chase. And not out of bitterness, but because you finally see how much of yourself you had to abandon just to belong. You're not becoming cold. You're becoming real. And real is uncomfortable, especially in a world that rewards performance. You might lose people. You might lose praise. You might lose the version of you they loved because that version was never you in the first place. But what you gain is something you can't fake. You gain your center. You gain your peace. You gain the quiet knowing that you are finally living in alignment, not with expectations, but with your truth. There's no medal for this kind of transformation. No applause when you stop pretending. But one day, you'll sit in a room by yourself, no mask, no audience, no filter, and you'll feel it. The calm, the clarity, the quiet pulse of a life that finally feels like it's yours. That's when you'll know the unraveling was worth it. Because sometimes, the only way to rebuild yourself is to let the false parts break. You walk into a room full of people. The noise is familiar. Chatter, laughter, glasses, clinking music, humming in the background. Everyone looks alive. Everyone seems like they belong. But you feel like a ghost. Not invisible exactly. Just not there. Physically present, emotionally absent. You smile when someone greets you. You nod when someone speaks. But it's as if you're watching it all from behind a glass wall. You hear the words, but they don't land. You laugh, but you don't feel it. It's not that you hate people. You don't. It's just that everything feels fake now. The conversations repeat themselves like scripts. The energy in the room feels rehearsed. People talk about things they don't care about, laugh at jokes that don't touch them, perform interest they no longer have. And you're just standing there wondering, am I the only one who notices this? Because the more awake you become, the more asleep everyone else seems. And that's the thing no one warns you about. Awakening doesn't always bring peace. At first, it brings disconnection. It brings discomfort. It brings the painful awareness that you no longer fit inside the world you used to navigate so easily. You don't belong in places where you have to pretend. You don't belong in conversations where your soul must stay silent. You don't belong in dynamics that only exist when you're performing. And so, you begin to disappear. Not out of bitterness, not out of superiority, but out of necessity. Because faking it now feels like suffocation. Because surface-level exchanges now taste like dust in your mouth. Because your spirit, once so adaptable, now refuses to bend. And yet, you still care. You still want to be understood. You still want to belong. But not at the cost of your soul. So you stand in that crowded room, not broken, but misaligned. Not lonely, but real. And for the first time, you stop blaming yourself for feeling disconnected. Because maybe the crowd isn't your mirror anymore. Maybe your sensitivity isn't a flaw, it's a compass. A quiet guide pointing you home. You start noticing more. The way someone's eyes dim when they smile. The way someone's voice trembles just before they say, "I'm fine." You see through the roles. You hear the silences between their words. And it makes it hard to play along. It's not that you're above anyone. It's just that your soul can no longer tolerate pretending. You start craving something different. Not louder. Not more exciting. Just real. Real connection. Real stillness. Real presence. And so you begin to leave. Quietly, gently. You stop showing up to places that demand your performance. You stop answering messages that drain you. You stop explaining yourself to people who only ever loved the mask. And with every goodbye, spoken or unspoken, you feel lighter. Not because walking away is easy, but because staying would mean abandoning yourself again. That's the thing about alignment. Once you taste it, you can't go back. Once you hear your true voice, the noise of the world becomes unbearable. Once you feel the difference between surviving and living anything less than truth feels like death. And yes, there will be days you miss the comfort of fitting in. You'll miss the ease of blending the praise that came with being agreeable. But that nostalgia, it's not for the past. It's for the version of you who didn't know any better. The one who was just trying to stay safe. Now you know. And once you know, you can't unknow. You don't belong in every room. You don't need to be liked by everyone. You don't have to explain your evolution to those committed to misunderstanding you. You're not distant. You're just no longer willing to play a role that starves your spirit. So if you feel like a ghost lately, take heart. It doesn't mean you're fading. It means you're awakening. And sometimes the most alive souls are the ones who go quiet in rooms that no longer reflect their truth. There's a quiet moment after the unraveling. It doesn't come with fireworks or clarity or sudden peace. It's more like a breath, a long, deep breath after years of holding it in. You're still in the same room. The world hasn't changed. The people around you are still who they've always been. But something inside you, something invisible, something sacred has shifted. You're no longer chasing. Not chasing validation. Not chasing answers. Not chasing a version of yourself that never felt true. You're not trying to impress anyone anymore. You're not molding yourself to fit a space that was never built with you in mind. You're not looking outward for a sense of enoughness because for the first time, you've started looking inward. And what you're finding there isn't empty. It's just quiet. But that quiet, that's where your soul lives. It's the space where your truth finally has room to stretch out and breathe. Where your wounds don't need to be hidden. Where your thoughts don't need to be edited. Where your presence is enough even in stillness. You start noticing small things. The way the air feels softer when you're not bracing for impact. The way time slows down when you're not rushing to be seen. The way your own company feels less like loneliness and more like coming home. And slowly, something beautiful begins to unfold. Not because you've arrived somewhere, but because you've stopped running. There's a myth we've all been taught that we have to become something fix, something earn something before we're allowed to feel whole. But wholeness doesn't come from effort. It comes from release, from letting go of who you thought you needed to be, from grieving the version of you that kept you alive, but also kept you small, from forgiving yourself for believing that being lovable meant being less of yourself. And in that release, you return to your softness, to your fire, to your center. You return to the you that existed before the masks, before the pressure, before the world told you to prove yourself at the cost of your peace. You remember that you were never broken, just buried. Buried under expectations, under shame, under noise that never belonged to you. And the more you listen to what's real, the less you tolerate what's not. That's the quiet power of awakening. Not the kind that shouts from mountaintops, but the kind that looks in the mirror, eyes steady, and whispers, "I see you now, and I'm not leaving you again." You stop asking the world to reflect your worth. You stop begging for spaces that never made room for your truth. You stop handing your peace over to people who never knew how to hold it. And in that stopping, everything starts. It's not a finish line, it's a threshold. One you cross in silence, not with certainty, but with presence. And maybe, just maybe that's what you've been looking for all along. Not a message that tells you who to be, but one that reminds you of who you've always been. Not advice, not noise, just permission. Permission to come home. So if this message stirred something in you, let it. Don't rush to define it. Don't scroll past it. Sit with it. Let it echo. Let it breathe. Let it remind you that you were never lost. You were just waiting for the quiet to finally be loud enough to hear. And now that you've heard it, you can't unhear it. You can't go back. And the truth is, you don't want to. Because the life you're about to build, the one shaped not by pressure, but by presence, it's not out there. It's rising from within you, one quiet, undeniable breath at a time.